How does one start off a story like this? That I asked myself, and I still don't know. So let me tell you about what had happened. I was just walking home from school one day. It was a pretty bad day, I'm not gonna lie. I had a lot of homework and I had a detention to serve. You could say I'm not the brightest of the bunch. Anyway, I was walking home with my friend Jessica. We were talking about other people and making fun of the ones that we didn't like. There were so many to choose from for me. I dislike people very easily. I remember we had just had a good conversation about who we had hated the most, and we sadly had to part ways. She walked to her house and I had to walk alone from there. Not to judge or anything, but her house looked like it was abandoned. I wouldn't want to live there myself. As she closed the door and I walked by, that is when I first heard it, rustling in the woods behind me. At the time, I ignored it. Keep in mind that I live in a densely wooded area and there's a whole bunch of wildlife. I didn't even have a second thought about what it was. And that was my mistake, I realize now. My next stop was my house. I live about a 20-minute walk away from Jessica. I remember that I had walked 10 minutes into my walk, and to get to my house, you have to walk in a path in the woods. My house is pretty far into the woods compared to the other homes in my neighborhood. You know, it was like any other day, and when you're by yourself, don't judge me. You tend to sing, and that's what I did. I sang the song, "In the Big Rock Candy Mountains." My grandma played it for me when I was a kid. It was a sort of comfort song. As I sang, I looked around and I wasn't paying attention. Out of nowhere, something hit me in the head and I closed my eyes as I winced in pain. I knew that it was rather small and I opened my eyes to see a walkie-talkie dangling on a weird kind of rope. Now that I think of it, it was more of a wire of sorts. I looked at it for a moment and I really didn't know what to do at first. A walkie-talkie dangling on a wire in the woods. Weird. It was almost like it was put there purposely. I just grabbed it, I don't know why. It looked like a regular walkie-talkie at the time. I pressed the button on it and nothing. Nothing but static. I put it up to my ear. I still heard static. Naturally, I thought that it was a piece of junk that didn't work. I threw it behind my head and as it landed, I walked a few feet away from it.
"Hey there."
A voice came from it. It was a man's voice and kind of quirky sounding. Almost like a young man, but it had such a childish tone to it. He said hello a few times and I quickly grabbed the talkie from the ground. I replied with a hello for myself. It was quiet for a second and I could hear raspy breathing.
"Oh, hello there. It's nice to hear a voice on the radio." The voice bellied out happily.
I replied with, "Oh, thank you. Your voice isn't too shabby as well."
"Well, I would like to say that I stole it from someone. But you know, I was born with it. Anyway, how'd you get this walkie-talkie, dude?"
At the time, I thought it was just random banter. Now I realize he was gaining information on me. We talked back and forth for a while. Honestly, I kind of liked talking to him. He had quite a friendly manner. I remember just talking to him all the way home. He wasn't too pushy or mean, and it was just like talking to one of my regular friends. The whole time, he was eating something though, and I could hear loud crunches while he was talking. I asked him what he was eating, and he said that it wasn't important. What a weird answer, now that I think of it. We stopped talking when I got to my house. I told him bye and he just went quiet and didn't reply. Static, it went back to. And with that, I just put the walkie-talkie back into my backpack. The day went on as usual. I got yelled at by my parents for getting to detention. They took my phone, but I still had the walkie-talkie in my backpack. I was sent to my room to do all of the homework that I had to do. And that's what I did for the rest of the day. Homework. At least I had my dog Buddy, my golden retriever pal. He is such a great dog. I mean, really nice. You know that dumb old saying, couldn't hurt a fly. And that was not him. He eats flies. It was something close to that though. Time had gone by and Buddy had fallen asleep on my bed. It was about midnight and my parents had also fallen asleep. I laid against Buddy like a pillow. It was quite snuggly. I then grabbed my backpack by my feet and I pulled out the walkie-talkie. I pressed the button and said hello. It went from static to raspy breathing, and then the guy said,
"What's up?"
We talked for about an hour, I would say, and then I felt vibrations on my head. It was growling, and not from the walkie-talkie, but from Buddy. He was looking at the walkie-talkie, and he just kept growling.
Huh, you have a dog?
Yeah, his name's Buddy. How weird. Buddy never growls at anything, and yet he was growling at the walkie-talkie. I now know that he was growling at the guy talking in the walkie-talkie. God, was I stupid.
Whoa, somebody's not happy. I think you should put him outside or something.
Actually, I've never seen him. I was cut off by Buddy. The growl was intensifying very loudly until a bark. Buddy just went crazy with barking and I tried to calm him down, but it was too late. He woke up my parents and he had to go outside into his doghouse. That's what the thing wanted, I now know. Even when Buddy was put out there, he was still barking like crazy. Buddy wasn't barking at my walkie-talkie this time, but at the woods. He was straining his neck on the chain he was being held onto because he wanted to chase something in the forest. I remember closing my blinds and I could still hear his loud barking right now. I went back to my walkie-talkie and said sorry for my dog for being rude. I heard raspy breathing again and then static. I remember thinking how that was really rude of him, just to stop talking to me like that because of Buddy's barking. It was like he had something more important to do now. That's why he stopped talking is what I thought then. I went to sleep soon after, covering my ears with my pillow to drown out all the barking. I had such a scary dream that night. I dreamt of Buddy, but I was him. I could see through his eyes and I was in his doghouse. I walked out of it and I could see through my window. I could see me just standing there for some reason. I was staring at Buddy and I could have sworn that I was smiling. It was such an evil smile, one that would put chills down your spine. I then saw me look towards the right and naturally, I looked over there. I instantly regretted it. I saw two eyes in the darkness of the woods and they were staring right at me. I then retreated back into Buddy's doghouse. I remember quivering in the darkness. I could hear whatever it was that was in the woods getting closer. There were loud footsteps, actually more like hooves. The thumping got louder and louder until it stopped. I could hear eerie, raspy breathing, and then I saw a giant claw grasp the edge of the doghouse. I woke up in a cold sweat on my bed. I grabbed my chest and I squeezed my shirt. I didn't wake up because of the dream, but because I heard Buddy cry out. It sounded like he was in pain, and I quickly tried to open my blinds. I opened them and I looked out and saw nothing. Buddy wasn't there anymore, and there was just his chain that was pulled out, fully extended. There was no collar, nothing. I just heard him yelp and now he was gone. I woke up my parents and I told them what had happened. They went outside and looked for him in their car. While they were looking, I was left alone in the house and I was so scared. Not for me, but for Buddy. Whatever I had dreamt, I think it came true. I went to my room and I shook. The walkie-talkie, that stupid walkie-talkie, went off, and I could hear Buddy's whimpering. I could also hear that same raspy breathing from my dream.
Look out your window,
the guy from the walkie-talkie said. I ran to my window and what I saw will haunt me forever. I haven't been talking to someone. I've been talking to a monster. It had deer antlers that were twisted, and it was huge. About 9 feet, I would say, covered in black fur, and it was human in shape. That was human as it got, as its face was a deer skull. Its sockets were not empty, as it had blood red glowing eyes, and they were staring right at me. It stood on hooves. Urine ran down my leg onto the floor. Right next to it was Buddy's mangled corpse. It was gory. I don't want to think about it. He had large bites taken out of him. Half his skull was gone and I could see his brains. The monster that did that to him was staring at me now. Blood dripping from its teeth, and a serpent tongue coming out to clean up. It slowly raised one of its arms and it stared, waving at me. I just stared in complete shock and terror. Its other arm slowly rose up to its mouth and in its claws was the walkie-talkie.
It's rude not to wave it back, you know,
it said in the guy's voice. I looked at it, and now that I think of it, its jaw didn't even move to talk. I slowly rose the walkie-talkie to my mouth and tears rolled down my cheeks. Why? I blurted out an emotional mess. It started laughing, not only in the guy's voice but many others. An old woman's, a young boy, an old man's, and in Jessica's voice. It didn't even move as it laughed. It just stared right at me.
You know, I've been watching you for some time now, and guess what? I've actually come to like you. But at first, I'm going to be honest with you. I was going to eat you, but instead, I ate your dog. Not much of a dog person. Actually, I'm not even a person. But he sure went down crying. You know, Jessica's been dead for a week now, and I've been walking with you instead, learning where you live and such. And then you found my walkie-talkie, and now we're here. You look very tender and appetizing up there. I could just eat you up, but instead, I'm gonna give you a choice. I'm going to kill somebody within the next hour, but if you give me one of your fingers, I'll leave you alone for now.
I remember everything fading to dark then, and my legs had gone weak. I couldn't keep them from holding my weight, and then I passed out. I woke up outside and there were cop cars everywhere. And they put me in the ambulance and they loaded me up on painkillers. That I didn't notice. I remember looking up as I was being put into the ambulance. The creature was in my room, and I saw with an arm of a human in its hand. It was making a wave goodbye. It was my hand. I screamed in agony despite the drugs. They had to sedate me even more. Just as they were about to close the doors, I glanced up to my room again and saw the creature continue to wave. I woke up in the hospital, looking to my right. No arm, just bandages. I had been out for weeks. The nurse said that I had been in a coma. My parents weren't there. She said that they had gone missing. There was a search party for them, but not a trace was found yet. I asked her how the cops got called to go to my house that night. She said that I had called them and said, "Please send help." The thing must have copied my voice, and for some reason, it called the cops. I realize now that it was to torture me. If you ever find a walkie-talkie in the woods, please don't pick it up.